fangirls and boys, this is Natalie and you're watching Whole Lotta Love, and in today's video I create this look right here using the Jordan Byers and Exposed Cosmetics Holiday Favorites palette and Holiday Favorites bundle. So this is what the palette looks like. It is absolutely gorgeous. So to be honest, when she first revealed this palette, I kind of had this feeling of like, oh, is that it? Because I know Jordan really loves to play with color and things like that, and this palette does have a lot of neutrals in it. So I kind of like looking at it like kind of like a perfectly clean palette. Just, you know, upon the initial reveal, I thought it was, to be honest, I kind of got like the very initial first impression was I thought it was a little bit boring. I had like a tinge of disappointment just upon that first glance when she revealed the palette. However, yes, this palette does have a lot of neutrals in it, but when I actually saw her using the palette in her video, I kind of saw what the shadows look like when they were like a little bit messier and stuff like that, and what they look like kind of, even though it was, you know, in her video, like in real life, so to speak. I kind of realized that this is like really, these are like really beautiful looking eyeshadows. So yes, you do get a lot of neutrals in this palette, which is really good for building up a look. She did say she wanted that true, like that cream shade, that kind of like highlighting setting shade, and then like a true black. So I thought those were really nice thought out additions. You get a couple of warm tone and a cool tone transition. You get a deeper brown over here, and just like kind of like a warmer crease shade over here. So there is a lot of like neutralness going on in this palette, but I think that the color, there is a lot of color in this palette too. It kind of like sneaks up on you in a way. It is like a grown-up color scheme. So you get like this side over here has like several green toned type of shades. So you're getting a few different green tones that are not like typical green tones that you would see. Actually, I feel like green tones are really not seen that much in general, sadly. These shades are like pretty complex, and of course you get the shade Locket here, which is that super cranberry shade that is kind of like a little bit brighter and a little bit more eye-catching in the palette. So I feel like it's not just like a neutral palette with a pop of color. I think the colors are really like well ingrained into this palette. I would say at least 1/3 to even close to 1/2 of this palette are more colorful shades, but they're like sophisticated, grown-up kind of colorful shades. So the Sydney Grace Autumn Rain palette kind of reminds me of that in this sense. I feel like that palette has more like jewel tones. The scheme is pretty different from this one, but it's definitely a complete palette, and it definitely has color, but it's not like bright or just like one or two pops. It definitely has like a grown-up color scheme, like integrated, like colors that are a little more muted and a little bit more wearable, not just like neon colors that you're only going to use in certain kind of looks. These are ways to integrate color really beautifully into more wearable neutral looks, or just like more sophisticated, like, you know, special event kind of looks and things like that. So I am really digging the color scheme. She did an excellent job of picking out these shades, I would say. So I do feel like she definitely said there were going to be a lot of duochromes in this palette, and I would agree. And normally I'm not super into duochromes like a lot of people are, but I think that this palette is making me a believer, because these aren't the type of duochromes that we're always used to seeing. So this shade over here, Blow in the Dark, so that shade, it's kind of like a cream base with like a golden peach flip to it, and I've definitely seen shades like that before, but not quite as creamy and quite as goldeny. Usually they're kind of more like a white base with like a little bit of a golden flip, but this flip definitely has like a little bit of peach to it, and it's just a little bit of a deeper color. So I would compare it to something like this, which is a colored rain shadow called Glisten. It doesn't necessarily look the same in the pan, but this shade definitely has like that golden flip to it. These are pretty different, but I would say Glisten by Colored Rain is what I'm more used to seeing. So they kind of like, I kind of put them over top of each other, unfortunately. But you could see this is the Glisten shade over here. It kind of has more of like a lighter feel to it, more of a white base color with that like little bit of a golden flip. This one's like a little bit deeper, the Exposed one, and it has like more of a cream base. So that they're pretty different, and I'm just definitely used to seeing more like these colors, which that is pretty because it kind of has something a little bit different. It's not a pure white, but I definitely like this one better. I feel like it's a little bit more richer, the Exposed Cosmetics one. And in terms of dupes as well, this is from Jouer. This is the shade called Dreamer. I think that this was like limited edition from their summer collection from a few years ago. So this one I think is similar to Eris in the Exposed palette, but they're pretty different. So that's the shade Dreamer. And I don't even know if you can get that shade anymore, so it doesn't really matter too much. I know the Estee Edit, when that brand was around, they did a similar shade in one of their holiday palettes, but again, you can't really get that anymore. So this is the shade from the Exposed and Jordan Byers palette versus the Jouer shade. This one is a lot brighter. It definitely has that like reddish brown undertone to it, but it's definitely more blue and it's definitely a much brighter shade. This one kind of has more of that undertone. It kind of pops with like just a hint of blue. So I'm kind of used to, like, I've definitely seen shades like this before, but I think that these shades are pretty unique. I don't think I have anything quite exactly like any of these shades in my collection. Well, any of like the more duochrome-y shades. So I'm gonna break down some of the information on this palette. So the palette is $100, but using the code Joby, her discount code, you actually get 10% off. So it was $90 for me. I used the discount code and it was free shipping as well. So that was really nice. So it wasn't like I got a discount and then I was pretty much paying the same price anyway with the shipping. So I got free shipping. So it was just $90. I ordered it on the Saturday it came out and I got it on the next Thursday. So I think that that is an excellent quick turnaround, especially for like a free shipping that wasn't expedited. So I thought that that was really nice. And yes, I would say that this is actually pretty expensive. So at $100 or $90, this is a pretty expensive eyeshadow palette, being that typical palettes range from like probably like $40 to $50, I would say is kind of like what you're used to seeing. But these are single eyeshadows in like what's essentially like a magnetic Z palette kind of thing, their own palette, but still. Yeah, so you're definitely getting something a little bit different than a typical palette. So these are single eyeshadows, and I think most brands, when they do single eyeshadows, those are their best formula. Like that's like their ideal formula. And then in palettes, sometimes they'll skimp on it a little bit to kind of make the palette a little bit cheaper. You're also generally getting less product in palettes, which, you know, someone like me who's like a makeup hoarder, it doesn't necessarily matter the product amount because I have so many different palettes. I'm not using a palette every single day for like weeks or months at a time where things are gonna run out really necessarily. I don't hit pan too much, but that's something to consider. These are full-size eyeshadows, and they're also really large full-size eyeshadows, so you get 0.14 ounces of product per pan. So I would consider a full-size eyeshadow to be anything with 0.07 ounces and above. I would consider this to be kind of like full-size eyeshadow. So this is like a double that size. I know Bodyography, the palette that I have from them, which is, it is a palette, but you could pop the pans out. It's kind of a similar amount of product. So these are like really full size and more along the lines of like professional size eyeshadow pans. So I would definitely recommend, the number one type of person who should seek out a palette like this and get this palette, I would say, is someone who's a makeup artist building their kit. Because with this palette, you're getting a lot of neutrals that are necessary, like the black, the white, these kind of transitioning crease shades over here. I would say that these are kind of good for building a kit, and then you get a lot of really nice like statement duochrome shades as well. So it's just a very versatile palette, and definitely good to have like this is one palette and then maybe a few other singles or one other palette, and you kind of have like everything you would need to create any type of look. So I would say with the size of product, definitely working makeup artists would probably be like the ideal candidate to want to buy something like this. Also, obviously someone who's like a super makeup hoarder like myself, who just, you know, really loved the color scheme and really wanted to try a new brand that I hadn't tried before. So I was pretty excited about that. And yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily say this is a gift for someone who kind of like lightly dabbles, or someone who like lightly dabbles in makeup. Maybe someone like that, you know, for the price, you could kind of find something that's just something that could be played with and kind of casually used. I feel like this is something that you're really gonna want to invest in and use a lot to really get the, you know, worth out of it. And I definitely think I will kind of continue to use this palette. I really do love these kind of different shades here. I'll swatch one more here, which I think is really pretty. This shade over here is called Emerald Tails. So you see that right there. And again, it definitely has like a little bit of a coppery base with like a goldish green flip to it. So yes, there's, you know, I would say at least like 4 or 5 true duochrome shades in this palette, which is a ton, and it's not the duochromes you're always seeing. So I think that that's really super nice. And I will also say that the palette is a little bit bigger than some of these, than the pans once you put them all in. So I think that that's actually a good thing because they're easier to pull out. So in some of my other Z palettes where it's like custom made for the eyeshadows and you pop them all in and it's full, they're like so tightly packed in that trying to pop them out is harder. But since you have like a little room in between each pan over here, they're really easy to pull out and stuff like that. And also with the bundle, you get Jordan's layout over here, which is pretty cool. So I laid it out in the same way that she did, but it's also, you get kind of like that room to kind of switch up the layout. And in terms of the shade range, I do think that this is a very complete palette. You have pretty much everything you need to create a look. The only thing I will say, and I think it's cool that she went with a cool tone deeper brown. It's something a little bit different, but I would say for me, I would probably have switched that out with something a little bit more warm tone to make this more of like a traditional every type of look kind of palette. Just something that was like a little more neutral or a little bit warmer with the deep brown. That's just something I would prefer, but I do definitely think it's a good addition because you don't always see like the cool tone browns as much, that shade being called Extinct. So that's pretty nice and it's a little bit different. So the color scheme was extremely well thought out on this thing and I do love it. Also in the bundle, you get a liquid lipstick, and I think on the website it might have said you have to use a discount code to get it. I'm not 100% sure on that, but you do get the liquid lipstick in the bundle, and this is in the shade Daredevil, so that's the shade I'm wearing right here on my lips. So I looked on the website and these retail for $9, which is about half price, if not even less, than your typical liquid lipstick. And the formula is pretty good. It's more of like a whipped formula, something like an Ofra. I would compare it to like the Ofra liquid lipstick formula rather than something that's like more liquidy. I think I prefer something that's more liquidy, not too liquidy, but I think I want something a little more liquidy. I feel like it's just easier to kind of like, you know, move the product around and get it in there, as opposed to something like this where you're kind of like really building the product and really like having to make sure the lines are really precise and stuff like that. But that's just a matter of personal preference. And I think for $9, this is a pretty good liquid lipstick. It doesn't get too crumbly. I've already, you know, worn it and tried it out and eaten with it and stuff like that previously, and it doesn't get really crumbly. So I feel like that's like kind of like a mark of something that's like maybe a little bit cheaper and not, you know, as good of a quality, but it's like, it definitely stays really smooth. It definitely wears from the inner lip out. So that's pretty typical of liquid lipsticks. I know people don't really like that, but I don't mind that. I would prefer that to something that's like crumbling or, you know, getting all over my face and getting messy. I think that's more of a graceful wearing out where it kind of like, you know, kind of starts to wear from the inside out. Yeah, overall, I think it's a pretty, especially for the price, if you were to buy these individually, I think that's a pretty good deal. And it's definitely like, it definitely dries down and it's definitely not moisturizing. So it is a little bit dry on the lips. I don't really mind that, but I know that that bothers some people. So yes, it's a typical dry down. And also with the bundle, she had said the first 300 customers, which I don't think is a ton. So I'm guessing this isn't really necessarily available anymore with the bundle, but you get this makeup bag, which is super duper huge. And I'll do a comparison here with this one. And this is a Kylie Cosmetics makeup bag. These are pretty like nicely sized as well. So you can see it's like about almost double the size, I would say, is that. So this is a really huge, nice makeup bag, which is awesome. And it has this glitter on it, which says nice, and it flips out. And once you kind of like drag your hand across and flip out the sequins, it says naughty, and it changes colors. It has like the black with the red lettering instead of the red with the white lettering. So I think that that's really super fun. I'm really happy I ended up getting the makeup bag. I wish they would have sold this bag individually, especially since it was only available to the first 300 customers. I think it would have benefited them to definitely make an extra buck because it's such a nice, large, beautiful makeup bag. So I'm not sure why they're not selling it individually. I guess they just wanted it to be really special and really encourage people to kind of order, you know, this bundle as soon as it went on sale. So I will list it above. So this bag is by iMotion, I guess, which is a vegan bag brand. So they have actual purses and they also have makeup bags. I didn't see this exact bag on their website, but they had a couple of other bags that had the sequence with the flip where you could flip it and it changes colors and stuff like that. So if you kind of like that kind of bag, you know, maybe that website is worth checking out. And yeah, so overall, I'm really loving the palette. I absolutely love how the eyeshadows performed. This isn't a first impression. I have played around with this a little bit, but this was the first time where I really tried to build out a really beautiful, complex eye look and really clean. And the eyeshadows blended out perfectly. I was able to build up the color. They have a good amount of pigment, but you could definitely build them up. It's not something where you're gonna have a super amount of pigment upon initial application and not be able to have a trouble shearing it out. So they're definitely like really buildable, and they don't get too messy. Like you can kind of really control the placement of them, which I thought was really nice. So I really did like the performance of the eyeshadows, and the shimmers are just so beautiful and reflective and metallic, foiled, glossy, all that good stuff. Very good product. The only thing is the pricing of the palette, but I do understand why. I didn't see any other single eyeshadows on their website. I saw that they had some palettes available for like $26. I'm guessing those are much smaller pans, and I don't know if maybe this is a new formula that they're kind of working with, or kind of like they, you know, worked with Jordan to kind of like introduce a new product into their line, like their single eyeshadows. But I think that, you know, it is a really good, these are really good shadows, and I do look forward to kind of learning about this brand a little bit more and them extending this range of single eyeshadows, because if they do more beautiful foiled eyeshadows in like different kinds of colors, I would definitely love to pick up a couple of extra singles. I also saw they had like some highlighting, blush, contour kind of stuff on their website, and then the liquid lipsticks. So the brand seems like kind of like an up and coming, like Instagram-y type brand, and the products are definitely quality to me. The eyeshadows perform beautifully, the liquid lipstick is pretty good. So I'm definitely happy with this whole collection, and I had a lot of fun playing with it, and I look forward to playing with it even more, especially because these are such great holiday colors. Anyway, if you are interested in seeing how I got this look, then keep on watching. So I am gonna go ahead and get started with my eye look. I am gonna start by setting the concealer I've laid down on my lids with this shade over here called White Cream. I've also already done my foundation and my eyebrows, and I'm using a Bodyography small flat shader brush. Okay, so that is what the lid area looks like set. As you can see, the eyeshadow is pretty pigmented. You can definitely see that color, and I definitely had to make sure I blended it out. So the next color I think I want to go into is this shade over here, this shade right over here, which is called Skinny Dip, and I'm going to use my Royal & Line Nickel Omnia BOM 45 brush. I'm just gonna put this like above my crease as like a little bit of a transition. And I'm gonna start to go a little bit further out on the edge, just a tiny bit past the brow, because I'm gonna do a winged cut crease. So that is the shade Skinny Dip laid down above the crease in the transition area. I'm gonna grab my OCC Cosmetic smaller tapered blending brush, and I'm going to go into this shade over here, which is called Mojave. This one right here. It's a little bit warmer and a little bit deeper than Skinny Dip. You can see there's a little bit of kick up in the pan. It's nothing overwhelming, but it's definitely there. So I'm just going to go right underneath where I laid down Skinny Dip and kind of go more in my natural crease, but kind of keep that same shape. So this is what we have so far. I definitely think that these eyeshadows blend pretty nicely, and I was able to build up the pigment, but there wasn't a lack in pigment. It was just, you can kind of shear it out, or you can kind of build up the pigment a little bit. So the process was very smooth of me building and blending. So I'm kind of keeping that edge there a little bit kind of pronounced, because I'm going to cut the crease, and I just want to, in the look, I don't want to lose any of this warm shade that I have in the crease. So I'm going to start to cut the crease. I am going to use a Alamar Cosmetics small concealer brush and my Huda Beauty Overachiever concealer in the shade Merengue to do this. So I've coated my brush, and I'm going to start to create the cut crease, which is going to be a wing, so it's going to go all the way out along this edge here that I created with the eyeshadow. So you could see the outline for the cut crease I created there. I just followed the line where I had placed the Mojave eyeshadow, basically, and now I'm just filling it in. And I'll just smooth out the edges just a little bit. Okay, so I have cut both of my creases. I am going to start to fill in where I've cut the crease with eyeshadow. So like on the inner corner, inner lid area, I'm gonna go into this shade here, which is called Blow in the Dark. So I'm going to go back to my Bodyography small flat shader brush, and I'm gonna put this on the inner corner, inner lid kind of area. So that is what that shade Blow in the Dark looks like on the inner corner and lid area. As you can see, it's really beautiful. It's very shimmery, very reflective, very smooth looking. It's very nice. I got like a teeny tiny little bit of fallout here, but since it's a light color and it was so small, I'm not really too worried about it. I am going to go into the shade, which I think is the star of the show in this palette, which is the shade right here called Eris. So I'm just putting this in the center of the lid. So this is what Eris looks like laid down in the center of the lid, and I did try to blend it a little bit more into that Blow in the Dark shade in the inner part. I think that this is looking absolutely beautiful. These shades are just so glittery and shimmery and foiled and reflective. They also have a little bit of that glossy element that I really like in eyeshadow that you don't always get. They're kind of just like a home run. It's just like a really beautiful shimmery texture. So I'm really loving how that comes out, how that's coming out, and just so vibrant. And I am going to finish the outer part of the lid with this shade right over here, kind of like where the wing is, just that outer part. I am going to use that shade, which is called Hypnotize, right over here, just to finish off covering this concealer and basically finishing the color on the lid. And this shade is really pretty too. It's kind of like a little bit of a taupey gray with a little bit of a golden flip to it, but I would say this is a little more subtly duochrome than some of the rest of the shades in the palette, but still it's pretty unique. And this is like one of my favorite shades in the palette. I think it's like so deep in a way, but like smoky and pretty. And it has that little bit of warmth, so it's not like completely gray or silver. It's like a little more flattering than that. So this is the upper part of my lid pretty much done in terms of the eyeshadow. I am going to create a wing. I'm going to use the E.L.F. This is the cream eyeliner. So I'm just going to use that same Alamar small concealer brush. I'm just going to clean it off. Here goes nothing, am I right? But I'm trying to kind of, again, really follow that edge where I created the shadow and wing with the concealer. So this is what I have so far. I kind of got carried away trying to meet that outer edge, and I took it all the way out. So this is a little bit of a different kind of wing. I feel like I was definitely getting like Cleopatra vibes when I was thinking up this look in my mind, and I think it's definitely really matching to that. It's more just like a extended liner type of deal going on. It is a little bit winged. It does get a little bit bigger as I go towards my actual eye. I'm gonna leave that alone and just kind of match it on the other side. I don't want to play with it too much more, because I think it's gonna just get messier if I keep trying to manipulate it. So I am going to go and do my liner on the other side. Okay, so that is my liner on the top lid done. I am going to line my waterline. I'm going to use the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil in the shade LSD. I am going to apply concealer underneath my eyes. Again, I'm going to use the Huda Beauty Overachiever concealer in the shade Merengue. I'm going to get right underneath my eyeshadow and liner and stuff like that. Once I blend it out, I want to really clean that up. although it actually is looking really nice. I don't have a lot of eyeshadow, also partially because I did cut the crease, but just all the eyeshadows I think look so beautiful in this look. Everything looks really clean. There is a touch of fallout with that shade Eris, that blue shade that I used. There is a little bit of fallout with some of these shimmers, but definitely nothing really that this concealer won't cover up. There's nothing really too messy going on at all. And I am using the Juno sponge to blend this out, which I actually first heard about on Jordan Byers' channel. I do really like this sponge actually. It is definitely like rounder and denser than the Beauty Blender, but it has like the flat bottom and this flat edge. I find that the flat edge is really nice, particularly for filling in the foundation in the nose crevices here, which I feel like always skips when I try to blend out my foundation. A lot of times I have to go in with my finger, but this one is just easy to kind of blend it out with the sponge itself. And it's only $6 compared to this Beauty Blender, which is like $20. So I definitely can see myself buying more of these. I did buy 2 on my initial purchase, and they seem really nice and durable. They don't seem to be, I've had this for a couple months now. It doesn't seem to be like, you know, getting little tears in it or falling apart. It definitely is very durable and very nice. So this is a good product, the Juno Beauty Sponge. I am going to use the Hourglass Caution Extreme Lash Mascara. My first time trying this mascara. I love this like triangular golden tube. It's super luxe. So I definitely think that this is building up my lashes pretty nicely. So the mascara is on. That mascara looks fantastic. You kind of would have to like a little bit of something clumpier though, because it definitely does clump up the lashes a little bit, but it definitely gives a lot of length and volume. I'm really enjoying that. But I am going to go ahead and apply blush and bronzer off camera, and I will be right back to finish a lower lash line and lips and all that good stuff. Okay, so I have applied my blush and my highlight. I am going to go ahead and finish the lower lash line. And to do this, I'm going to use the shade Locket, which is the Super Cranberry Rich Red Matte shade in the palette. And I'm using a MAC 219 pencil brush to do this. Dust off a little bit of that excess. So you could see that Locket shade right there. It's really, really pretty. It definitely has that cranberry slight purpleness to it, but it's also like a nice, pretty kind of reddishness also. And again, this one is buildable. It's not like I've applied this in 1 second and I feel like, you know, my lower lash line is completely overwhelmed with like pigment. It definitely, it's pretty easy to kind of build this up and not get too much going on right away. I am kind of like grazing. I'm not like kind of putting a lot of pressure. I'm kind of just grazing it to keep it from getting too intense on the lower lash line. I'm just gonna very slightly blend that out with my OCC smaller tapered blending brush. I am gonna finish off my eyes again with the Caution Mascara by Hourglass on the lower lashes. So this is the eyes done. I really like how they came out. The eyeshadows performed really, really beautifully. So I am going to finish off my look with lips, the Paint and Pucker Liquid Lipstick by Exposed Cosmetics, and this is in the shade Daredevil. I wouldn't normally pair this with this eye necessarily. I think I would go for something like more of like a warm tone nude or something like that, but I do want to just kind of show the whole look of the bundle. And I want to try something different. Why not? So this is the finished look. I definitely like how everything came out. This lip is like a true red. It's like a really pretty like holiday party kind of lip, and I do like it. It is pretty intense against these eyes, especially because the lower lash line is a little more of like a cranberry with like a hint of purple to it. So it's a different tone of red, I would say, than what's going on in the lips, but it's definitely It's definitely a vibe. It's definitely like a super extra makeup look kind of vibe, and I really like it. I think it's something really fun and different, and I absolutely love how the eyeshadows performed. I really love the cut crease. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and have a good one. Bye guys.